Look, some people still think the job of a financial advisor is to be able to predict when to get in the markets, when to get out of the markets. Like you've got some sort of crystal ball can tell the future.
Pension plans don't manage money like that.
No. Nor do trustees of, nor do trustees. They're the ones that have a fiduciary responsibility.
They don't manage money like that.
No. It's probably foolishness.
They manage a well-balanced portfolio over the long term and rebalance when appropriate.
It's just amazing when looking at these, the investor returns are so different than what the markets could do.
20% less than had they just bought and hold. Because of their
equity.
Because of their biases.
Yes, and if you're thinking about, if you look at like, I'm going to check how my fund's doing, and people think that there's been this huge shift to passive. I question that because there may be a huge shift to using index funds, but it doesn't mean that the average investor is just buy and hold.
That's an excellent point.
So they own the S&P 500 index fund for a while, ETF, then they move out of that and they say, well, I think I should have a little more in emerging markets, or maybe I should have in some growth stocks, or maybe some tech stocks, and so they're actually using passive investments, but actively moving them into sectors, probably based on that information, at the wrong time. That's exactly right. And so I think even for yourself, you should really take a good look at your last decade or so and the investment decisions you've made and ask yourself, were those the right decisions?
When should you make changes in your investment portfolio?
When there's two things. One is a change in the time horizon, your circumstances, or when you might need the money. And two is something that's changed where your risk tolerance has now changed.
Because of a life event.
My spouse suddenly has terminal cancer. The future's different. I don't know my time horizon anymore. I'm worried about the markets, and I'm already worried about my spouse. So that would warrant
at least to consider a change. And it's all based upon the psychology of that person. Right? Because if they're ones that worry about the portfolio anyway, a life change will cause them to focus more on that.
Yeah.
So Scott, you've been doing this a long time, what percentage of your clients actually come to you and say, I'm retiring, so I should have a completely stable portfolio with no fluctuations?
Well, I don't know if it's completely... everyone wants that.
Yes. Stable growth.
I want high return without a lot of fluctuation in a short period of time.
Got an email from a friend of mine saying, hey, moving advisors, you want to talk to Allworth? Just looking at stable growth. Like, that'd be a great name.
Yeah, let me write that down.
Stable growth. Like, what does that mean? What does stable growth mean? Stable, what is growth? What is that?
Stable growth is the CD.
That's right.
4.5%, 5%.
Exactly.
That's stable growth. It's not very much growth. Barely keeping pace with inflation.
But it's stable.
Post-taxes, you're actually going backwards.
But it's stable.
And it's an interesting time now with interest rates higher. Oh, you see people reacting. Because, like a year or two ago, you couldn't... It's like, well, I can get my money out of the markets, but what are my alternatives? I'm going to earn nothing.
What am I going to do?
Now you're like, I could take money out of the stock market. Looks crazy. Look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what's happening here and there. And with the presidential election coming next year.
And I can get 5% in a bank CD, so I'm just going to take it out of this. Well, that's a whole different set of problems you've created for yourself with just keeping up with inflation. And then are you going to move back in? If interest rates go down?
Move back in when things are more expensive, because that's what people do. That's the funny thing about financial markets. The one market no one gets excited about is this concept. If I need new tires for my car and I suddenly see they're all 30% off for the next week, I've got my tires now because I can get them 30% cheaper or whatever.
Stocks. Broad markets.
People don't get excited when they go down in price.
Yeah. Well, yes. We're talking about broad markets. Let's not confuse individual equities.
Yeah, a company could be blown apart, and it's a piece of garbage company, and you shouldn't own the stock.
That's right.
Yeah, and the stock's never going to recover.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm talking about the broad
markets.
Yeah.
Broad markets. Individual equities are a completely different story.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, it's time for our Money Matters house call segments where we check in with the caller. We've had someone in the past, and it was Pat. I think it was last May. We spoke to a California man named Matt. He had been listening to our show for more than 20 years, which not a lot of people have been listening for 20 years. He's not an older client. He wanted to know whether he should think about reverse mortgage. Here's a clip from that call.
So we've got a house that's worth $800,000, and we've got about $600,000 in equity, over $600,000 in equity. Not a ton in savings, not a ton in 401k because of medical issues and this and that. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. But the bottom line is my goal is to get the house paid off. Because our house payment right now, we still have 6 years to pay on it. It's about 70% of our income. So we have our Social Security plus we have a small pension. So, and we live fine, and we don't have too much house. I'm okay with living here the rest of my life. That's not a problem. And I talked to the guy about this particular individual about reverse mortgages, and he's telling me that, FHA's got to guarantee the loan, and we've got to pay $16,000 in fees to FHA to guarantee the loan, and then on top of that, there's closing costs, this and that. He says he'll be out probably at least $20,000. And I'm thinking,
Red light
I've got
camera.
$600,000 in equity in this home. Why would I give up $20,000 of that?
So let's step back for a second.
And I don't know what the exact fees are.
So let's step back for a second. So the size of a reverse mortgage, and by the way, this is from memory, that the rules have changed over time, but the general concept is the same. The size of the reverse mortgage is based on two factors. One is the value of the home. Forget what the equity in the home is, but the value of the home. And then the age of the individual or the couple that is living in the home, the people on title.
If you're 91 years old, you can get a reverse mortgage for almost what your home's worth.
Right. So when they quote you that number, my guess is they quoted you to the maximum that you would actually be eligible for in a reverse mortgage, not for just the $200,000 that you want to pay off the mortgage. And I'm not saying whether you should do it one way or the other, but my guess is that those numbers are wrong because they quoted it, you being able to borrow $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of the home based upon your age and the value of the home. And then that's the number. What you do with those proceeds, obviously, is the first thing they do is they pay off the first lien holder, which is the primary mortgage, and then the rest will oftentimes go either as a lump sum to you or as a line of credit. So let's not get hung up on that $20,000 because unless you know the answer to that, what was the loan amount?
They wouldn't tell me exactly what the loan amount would be, but all he would tell me was once the loan was closed, they would pay off the first, which is $197,000.
Okay.
And they would provide me with a line of credit of $91,000.
Okay, that's the answer. So it's about $300,000. So what you were talking about at $20,000 is approximately 6.5%, which doesn't sound that unusual. Reverse mortgages are not cheap. They are more expensive than a primary mortgage. There's no question about that. You have 6 years left on your mortgage.
I mean, one other way to tackle this, and if we were having a conversation a year ago, would have been different, right? So a year ago, we might have said, why don't you just refinance it into a 30-year mortgage? 30-year fixed mortgage. Let's forget about getting it paid off.
And not worry about it. And that's how I would have addressed it.
And it still may be today.
And it might make sense for today. You shouldn't worry about paying off this mortgage. Right?
What do you have in savings?
Probably only a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, so you're my brother, Matt. Here's what I'd say. If you have a couple $100,000, you have a couple $100,000 in savings.
How much are your payments a month?
$3,200, which includes principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
And you're not prepaying any of this?
I'm not prepaying any of it.
And what's-
$3,200, and it's only a 3% loan.
Yeah, this is a rough one. I can see where you're
See,
actually...
I did a refi. I did a refi to get to 3%. I think I did it
What's your
3 years ago.
What's your savings look like then? So when you did a refi 3 years ago, what was the length of the loan? Was it 10 years?
10 years. There's a 10-year loan. So now I've got 6 years left.
That's why. See, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like your structure, Matt, because
I know.
none of us get out of here alive. We're probably, but at some point in time, we're all going to get sick of sort of injured, right? Like you're 69, just in reasonably good health. You might want to enjoy life a little more now instead of waiting 6 years or longer.
And quite frankly, for the rest of the listeners, our counsel back then was, look, the difference between a 10-year loan and a 30-year loan back 3 years ago was about 0.5%. Buy the 30-year loan and pay a little bit higher in interest. And pay it back. So here's what we're at.
And what do you have in savings?
200.
And are you generating income from that?
Well, it's in 401ks. I manage my own.
Okay,
Yes, I do
401ks.
from that.
So it's not just cash.
No. But you know what? If I was to withdraw some of that, I do have taxes and understand finances to a degree, but I could withdraw some of that and not pay tax on it because of the tax cuts. And income-wise, so that generate about $5,000 a month. So, like I said, the payment for house payment is about 7%.
Yeah. How long do you plan on being in the house?
Correct.
This is really tough.
This is the dilemma I'm going through.
And look, here's where reverse mortgages make the most sense. So one of our early employees, his mother-in-law came to him. She was 84 years old. She had been losing weight. People just thought she was just aging and losing weight. She says, can I talk to you about this reverse mortgage, how these things work? Now, she had been widowed a handful of years, did not want to leave her house. She had racked up credit card debt of, $38,000, $42,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And she got to the point she couldn't get any more credit. So she literally was cutting back on her caloric intake because of cash flow. Of course, she had reverse mortgage. Her life. Right? So that's the perfect situation. The complete opposite.
It's what you got to do.
This is our lifestyle.
That's right. That's why I didn't say that, because you said we are not moving.
Right? Same reason as 84 now. Right?
And then you're like, what's the other alternative? You know, you're surrounded by water with nothing to drink. You've got $800,000 in net worth. Right? And you just can't access it.
Well, and what brought this to mind, one of the reasons why, well, I really respect you guys immensely, and I told the mortgage I'm not doing it, but just got the half because you guys are the ones I trust.
By the way, any advice we give is not really advice. Go consult your own advisor.
Okay.
So where did you think we would go?
Not a client engagement.
Well, over the last couple of years, we've had things break. So, we don't owe anybody any money other than our mortgage, but, the washer dryer goes up.
No, homes are expensive.
So,
Yep.
So I put on a couple of grand here. The air conditioner goes up. There's $13,000 there. So I'm finding myself capping my retirement, my 401k money, a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. I'm thinking, I need more access. I do reverse mortgage. I need more access than $91,000.
Well, you're going to have a lot more access than $91,000 because you no longer, you've got taxes and insurance. So the $3,200
is about $2,500 a month.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
California's capital city, now trending on KFBK, Sacramento's news radio. Well, there's good news when it comes to the I-10. It'll be opening ahead of schedule.
10,000 labor hours all told to get us to this point ahead of schedule. 8 days to get this thing open and operational. And that means, if you're doing the math, that this thing opens tonight. It will be fully operational tomorrow.
As Governor Gavin Newsom, more than 250 people worked on this section of the freeway 24 hours a day after a fire last Saturday. Officials have also released a picture of a person of interest in the case. And speaking of the I-10, a grant program is being made available for downtown businesses that may have been affected by the Santa Monica freeway closing. Mayor Karen Bass says the program is being administered by the Los Angeles Economic Workforce and Development Department. That's a local news. I'm Ryan Baker. Now, Sacramento traffic.
I see significant delays in Sacramento westbound Cap at El Camino due to a major crash taking out the left lane. That's why you're stop and go from Marconi. In Dixon, you're punching up westbound 80 from Frederick Road to Midway Road. Westbound 50 slammed from the 5099 split over to 15th Street. A slow ride eastbound Cap from N Street to Cal Expo. Up in North Highlands, eastbound 80 before Winter Street. There's an engine in the middle lane, so be careful. Rancho Cordova, west 50 before Matherfield Road. The hazard is taking away the 2 middle lanes. Traffic on the 10s every 10 minutes, mornings and afternoons. Steve Herrera, KFBK News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
Now, Sacramento weather. Tonight, breezy during the evening, mainly clear skies, otherwise below 43. An abundance of sun tomorrow with a high 65, and a few clouds for Tuesday with a high 66. I'm AccuWeather's Gregory Patrick on KFBK, Sacramento's News Radio.
In 1879, Mae Woolsey, an ordinary Sacramento girl, died. 100 years later, her hippie trunk was found